I also would like to thank Mr. Papandreou once again on my part. That it was a fantastic speech. Thank you so much. With both your experience as well as giving us the whole ancient history of how things evolved. And I would like to thank all the panelists as well, and the previous panel, which was very enlightening on many issues. One thing that I may actually differ with Ivan is that, yes, one's populism may be a democracy for another, but maybe we may be missing an angle there that perhaps I would like to propose to EAPC to bring it on the table with your expertise and brainstorming sessions. What about religious populism? So I don't think we're talking enough about that, because one side of the world, while you are discussing about populism, in a reverse way is feeding religious populism on another side of the world, which we are also part of. And it is feeding each other in an intertwined destiny. And our survival, I believe, I would like to be arrogant here, the stakes on our end is much higher as a survival matter, really. So we have come to this stage that politics is not steering the society any longer, but society is steering the politics. Maybe we may be witnessing this for the first time in the history of the world, at least for my generation, it is the first time. I believe we will witness the consequences of this mass migration movements for the near future, but also the next century. And nobody can clearly foresee the outcome. I think we, the politicians, may not be sure about what to do about it necessarily. Just like Mr. Papandreou said, I may fall into the second category of accepting that and try to find solutions altogether. Military actions certainly are turning as a flood of people, as well as those policies that were defined, unfortunately, with lacking cultural readings of certain geographies, especially the geography that my country right now belongs to more and more. Only in the year of 2015, when we witnessed that 1 million plus people have taken refuge in Germany, this immense number could not have been put under control by any known political solution. Now, immediate and emergency solutions are being introduced as we speak, of course. And it may be that the migration movements have taken control of the politics. We have not witnessed such a social pressure in the history. And the situation we find ourselves is an answer of social movements to politics. The intervention to Iraq, of course, with a claim to be bringing democracy, opened up the Pandora's box that we can backdate much further, but I would like to start there, that keeps opening up with new faces of Russian adults, just like that. And their politician does not necessarily know what to introduce any longer, losing its resistance power to the pressure coming from the bottom. So in short, I predict that unfortunately this may lead to a state that the idea of living together, that was the ideal of my generation. We believed in it strongly, and now before our eyes it's collapsing, it's dissolving. And it is being replaced by the word of security more and more, both on the political as well as diplomatic circles. And the word of consensus is being exchanged for other pragmatist solutions, short-sighted search for solutions. But nevertheless, I still want to keep that ideal deep within me that there must be people looking for long-term solutions at some point. And for that, we need to look at the root causes of it in politics. What did we do wrong? And it brings me back to the question that, did we really, as progressive politicians, however we want to name ourselves, as those pacifists, peace activists, however you want to name it, from the social democratic to liberal minds to Christian Democrats, I don't know, did we really raise hell when it came to the stage that we were about to find a solution to stop escalation of conflicts, say, i.e. Syria? We had tried very, very hard on our part with brave colleagues of mine to raise our voice and made it heard by our counterparts on the other side of the border. We said, if Syria shakes as a cultural and religious fault line, it cracks into Turkey, Hatay shakes. Hatay shakes, Turkey shakes. Turkey shakes, Europe shakes. Because more than anything today, that is the global version of things, is actually not only the physical borderlines or the financial ties that connects us, but the human connection, and therefore cultural borderlines. And I think at the very core of our debates and discussions, also that feeds into populism on the European landscape, is actually missing that cultural reading more and more. Well, maybe I'll start with a Turkish story. I'm wearing this t-shirt today, by the way, Mr. Kutandre. Thank you for recognizing it. We really do need, even though we may be opposition, we are very used to being beaten up, but we really do need some good news from the country as well. So the football club that I am a fan of as well has given me this t-shirt with my slogan. They created it for me. And they asked me to wear it in the weekend if we are the champion, and we are the champion. So just a little anecdote. I would like to bring you back to the 2000s, early 2000s in New York. It was late, and there's a famous Turkish soup shop called Bereket in the middle of Manhattan. So it's a late night shop, and we went there with my mom and another friend to get a soup in the middle of the evening. And when we entered, we ordered our soups, of course, in Turkish. The shopkeeper is Turkish. And then our soups arrived much earlier than the American couple that was sitting next to us. And then I said, and they were actually trying to leave the shop, having their soups, to eat their soups. They were rushing. So I said to the shop owner in Turkish, you know what? They didn't get their shop. And then he, in Turkish, asked the waiter guy, also they were first generation immigrants, he said, boy, why don't you give the tourists their soup? So American citizens of Manhattan or New Yorkers were actually tourists in his eyes for this first generation immigrants. This may give us a little bit of humor, but this may also give us a clue about how challenging it may be to join a society, join a new society. So I just want to summarize a couple of things because there are so many angles to be said, but I would like to focus much more on the solutions part. After this little analysis that I want to do, for politics, we all do know and we witness from our counterparts who taps into those immigrant communities in Europe as well, from every spectrum of politics, center, left, center, right, far, it doesn't matter, but we all witness that when election time is around the corner, they actually tap into migration votes, and they want to be appealing. There, from the social democratic perspective, I can speak for my sister party counterparts as well. Maybe there has been maybe we have taken a big gamble when it comes to universal human rights under the name of cultural rights for the easy vote. Too much investment went into creating or allowing or supporting traditional institutions that separates migrant communities much more and imprisons them in their own community. Those girls and women who are actually running away from the destinies from their original countries, the destinies of their mothers, grandmothers, when it comes to women's human rights, actually find themselves in second generation, third generation, being imposed those lives upon them in the ghettos that they are not able to leave. So just because we forgot to invest in mixed neighborhoods, we spoke about equal opportunities, equal education, human rights and all, but perhaps it was easier to find them in one place. And actually this led for them to fall into the hands of traditional barons that wanted to control those migrant communities. That may have been the root cause actually today that host communities are not feeling secure or safe or in sharing the same values. So both communities, also matryoshka dolls within the communities of migrants and immigrants are building walls between each other as well as with the host community. So they don't want to be included because they think they will lose their faith, or they will become infidel. This may be the perception, so we need to look at the perceptions as well. And the host community feels that they are not sharing the same values, so therefore they put the same, all migrants in one box. So this is the sentiment on the street that is growing that we may have missed to find solutions for right way of integrative ways of the community. So when it comes to the vote, migrant communities are priceless. But when it comes to the election time, also it may be the biggest, it may be created as the biggest enemy. So there is hypocrisy there in creating messaging around it. The whole world is in an emotional state against immigrants, and I think this is our question. In the last quarter of the century, the world has witnessed waves of immigration that will change our lives in unforeseen ways, that is for sure. Very likely, we haven't lived a period like this. Despite the great fusion of cultures, different cultures yet have to resolve the issue of how to live together. Polarization and discrimination are at their historical peak, and the primary problem for our society has become security. Again, perhaps ever since the Mongol invasions of 13th century. On the other hand, there is another vertiginous change. The technological change of the last 50 years is changing the world faster than ever before. The change created by technological innovation is beyond what we can control. We feel the changes brought about the waves of integrating people and technology in the coming years. We will feel it even more. There is no doubt, though, whether we like it or not, as politicians of different spectrum and societies, we will be living in communities that are more cosmopolitan and more interactive than ever before. So this is a change that we are not able to control. So our leaders' response so far has been either silence or words of good intention. Those who doesn't necessarily have a solution, clear solution, but don't want to really talk about it to find the solutions. But this is a big social issue, and we do need to find a solution. One more thing that I would like to say that I don't know in EAPC circles, you do know any colleagues of yours who have given support in their advice or defining policies. When it came to early 2000s, when this idea surfaced itself for moderate Muslim democracy. And there was a big intellectual support for it. We have seen from the handful of Western pundits and decision makers. Whoever did that actually needs to explain to us why it failed now, because somebody has to take the responsibility to find solutions for us as well. And now, this is my appeal, that we need to find a new way to strengthen secularism. Secularism is not something to be feared. It is the only way that faiths can breathe together and live together. And in fact, this is my cause, and I think we should bring that back into the table, into the discussions in politically revising our policies. And so we just need to look at much more long-term solutions and bring that in the much more embracing way to the societies in political messaging, I'm more than happy to answer questions or receive your commentaries in the latter part. Thank you very much.